The anime begins with our main protagonists, Seito Hojo and Akane Sakuramori, crossing paths in the school hallway just before class. When Seito gets close to her, Akane suddenly grabs his tie and warns him not to reveal their secret to the class or else. It turns out that Seito has secretly married Akane, his arch-nemesis and the girl he dislikes most. This shocking event happened just 4 days prior. Flashback to the previous day. Akane berates Seito for messing up the class log, nitpicking and yelling at him over every small mistake. Her relentless criticism irritates Seito to the point where he snaps back, telling her to go touch grass or something. Akane retorts that she's too busy correcting his bad attitude. Suddenly, Himari, another classmate, steps in, asking Akane to ease up, but Akane defends herself, accusing Seito of disrespecting the class and everyone around him. Seito, of course, disagrees. Himari questions why Akane is so fixated on him, catching Akane off guard. Flustered, she assumes it's because just seeing him makes her blood boil. Their argument is interrupted when another classmate calls out for Seito, grabbing the girl's attention. The newcomer, an attractive girl, happens to be Seito's cousin from Alabama, who comforts him. Much to his relief, she's the only one who understands him. Himari speculates that Akane's constant pestering might mean she has feelings for Seito. But Akane clearly denies this, shouting that she'd never like him, even if he were the last man alive. Seito, equally annoyed, responds with the same energy. After school, Seito receives a call from his grandfather, Tenryu Hojo, requesting a private conversation. As the heir to the Hojo group, Seito shows no interest in the discussion, prompting Tenryu to have him forcibly taken in a luxury car by men in black suits. During the ride, the driver explains how Tenryu saved the Hojo group from collapse during a major recession, turning it into a global high-tech corporation. Despite being 60 years old, Tenryu remains sharp and active as the company's head. The driver mentions that Tenryu is fond of Seito, unlike his father. Soon after arriving at his grandfather's residence, Seito is surprised to find Akane there as well. She explains her grandmother forced her to come. The two immediately start arguing over trivial things, but their grandparents arrive and laugh, finding their bickering amusing. Inside, Tenryu announces they're here to celebrate, though Seito and Akane have no idea what he means. Frustrated, Seito demands an explanation, and their grandparents reveal the shocking truth: they're arranging their marriage. Both Seito and Akane are horrified. Initially, Seito assumes it's a joke, while Akane, stunned, argues that they're still in high school. Her grandmother, Chiyo Sakuramori, points out they only need to be 18 to marry. Tenryu and Chiyo explain that they were once in love but separated due to petty disagreements. Each went on to marry others and fulfill their respective responsibilities, but now, as their lovers are both 10 feet under, they regret not being together. They took this opportunity to correct their missed chance, wanting their grandchildren to marry. Akane furiously rejects the idea, declaring she'll marry for love, to which Seito agrees too. Anticipating resistance, Tenryu unveils a backup plan. He points to a stray dog in the backyard, declaring that if Seito refuses, he'll leave the Hojo group to the dog. He insists that logic and sanity don't matter in running a company. Meanwhile, Chiyo whispers a vague but terrifying threat to Akane, leaving her shaken. With this ultimatum, the grandparents give them 3 days to decide. As Seito and Akane leave the house, they avoid making any agreements due to their mutual hostility. Back home in her room, Akane reflects on why she's always antagonistic towards Seito. She realizes it's because he consistently outperforms her in grades. He's always first, while she's second. Seeking advice, she calls Himari and asks what she'd do if her family forced her into marriage. Himari says she'd refuse as she already has someone she likes. Surprised, Akane presses for details, but Himari refuses to reveal the person's identity. When asked the same question, Akane says she'd rather wish bad things on the person in question, even hoping for a meteor to strike them, as she dislikes everyone. Himari jokingly suggests that Akane should just go through with the marriage so they can split the rent and bills. However, Akane dismisses those as valid reasons to marry. Curious, Akane then asks Himari what she would do about the other things boys and girls are expected to do in marriage, hinting at intimacy. Himari finds some logic in that, noting that having heirs is important, but casually adds that it would be fun to have 100 babies. This horrifies Akane even more. Meanwhile, Seito wrestles with his own dilemma, thinking, why did it have to be Akane? He's convinced she'd make his life unbearable at home, just like at school. But when his Alabama cousin, Shizzy, notices his distress, she asks what's wrong. Seito explains how his grandfather is pressuring him into marriage and threatening to leave the company to a stray dog if he refuses. But Shizzy advises him to reflect on what matters more, his freedom or the Hojo group. Seito admits he wants both, but Shizzy reminds him that no one can have it all. She explains that life is bound by rules and instincts. The trick is to work within those constraints. She adds that not inheriting the company isn't a failure, and even if he ends up broke and rummaging through trash, she'd still be by his side. Touched by her loyalty, Seiko thanks her for her support. 3 days later, the day of decision arrives. To everyone's surprise, both Sato and Akane announce their intent to get married. Akane quickly clarifies she doesn't love him, but Sato informs his grandfather that they'll proceed after college. However, Tenryu shocks them by saying everything begins now. Their belongings have already been moved to their new home, and their marriage certificates have been submitted. Soon, Tenryu and Chio leave them at their breeding nest, ignoring Akane's pleas not to abandon her. Once inside, Akane accuses Sato of trying to lock her up when he bolts the door, but he points out it's standard for safety and can be opened from the inside. Exploring their new home, they stumble upon some surprises: a romantic jacuzzi in the bathroom and a single bed in the bedroom. When Sato calls his grandfather to complain, Tenryu explains that a single bed is only natural for a married couple, with the first rule being no sleeping on the couch or floor. Akane, horrified, protests to her grandmother, who only encourages her to embrace her new life. Sato suspects their grandparents might have installed cameras to monitor them, but Akane cuts him off, accusing him of having perverted intentions. She pulls out a pencil in self-defense and storms off, mistrusting his every move. Later in the kitchen, Sato offers to share dinner, but Akane misinterprets it as a sinister comment, accusing him of wanting to devour her. Ignoring her paranoia, he hands her a slice of pizza, which she takes before retreating to a corner. When it's finally bedtime, Sato lies on one end of the bed, exhausted, only to feel Akane settle on the other. They both realize the bed is deliberately too small, clearly another ploy by their grandparents. Sato becomes self-conscious about the sweet scent of Akane's freshly washed hair, which makes him nervous. Akane warns him that if he tries anything, she'll end him. Sato assures her he has no intentions and admits he's never been in a relationship either, which surprisingly calms her down. Curious, Sato asks why Akane agreed to marry him. She dodges the question, saying it's purely formal, and though she hates the rules, she'll endure them to achieve her goals. Sato teasingly asks what she'd do if the rules eventually require them to have kids. Alarmed, Akane backs away, causing Sato to accidentally hit her jacked in the confusion. Enraged, Akane twists his finger and threatens to break it even after he explains it was an accident due to the bed's size. Back in the present, Akane sternly warns Sato to keep their marriage a secret at school. Shiken proposes setting him up with a bomb trigger device to ensure he doesn't slip up. Sato, now more stressed than ever, realizes this is only the beginning of their chaotic school life as a married couple. As the group enters the classroom, Himera curiously asks what they had been discussing in the hallway. Akane smirks and says she was just telling Sato to take his ugly face elsewhere. While Sato finds his seat, Shize notices a new scent on him and questions where he spent the night. Nervously, Sato claims his dad bought a new shampoo, but Shize isn't buying it. She detects a woman's fragrance mixed in. Knowing something was off, she'd done her homework and discovered Sato is secretly married and living in a separate house. Sato quickly ushers Shize outside to stop her from spilling the secret, but Shize demands hush money, accusing him of not even consulting her before doing biology lessons in bed. When he asks what she wants, Shize says she'll think about it and let him know later. After gym class, Akane resumes picking on Sato for leaving equipment outside the storage room. Sato defends himself, explaining it's for the next class, but Akane finds other faults to nitpick, sparking yet another heated exchange. Their banter draws the entire class, who gathers to watch the comedy show. Himera jokes that their constant bickering has become legendary. Later at home, Akane complains about the fridge being overrun with juice boxes, and Sato proudly admits it was his idea. When she argues for a balanced diet, Sato smugly shows her a cupboard stuffed with instant ramen. For protein, he introduces the concept of protein shakes, but Akane refuses to rely on artificial food. Another argument ensues, during which Sato admits he spent years grooming his taste buds to the point where terrible food actually tastes good to him. Akane realizes his awful habits might kill him one day, which would interfere with her own goals, so she decides to teach him the value of real cooking. When she makes him dinner, Sato becomes paranoid, suspecting she's trying to poison him. Hesitant, he finally takes a bite and is instantly reminded of his childhood and the homemade meals he used to have. He awkwardly describes it as an average homemade meal, exactly what he's always wanted. Misunderstanding, Akane thinks he's insulting her and tries to take the plate away. Sato snatches it back and devours the food, leaving Akane fuming. The next morning, Akane wakes him up for school, but half asleep, Sato mistakes her for Shize and pulls her into bed. Akane smacks him awake and drags him downstairs, laying out a deal. If she cooks, he does the dishes. Sato suggests letting them pile up so he can clean everything at once, which only annoys her further. She also scolds him about leaving toilet paper rolls and soap wrappers in the bathroom. Seiko defends his lazy habits, claiming trash should only be thrown out once a month. Akane, being obsessively clean, can't handle his mess, while Sato sees her as overly demanding. On their walk to school, Sato reflects on how different they are and questions whether living with Akane is even possible. That evening, Sato plays a zombie game to blow off steam, but Akane barges in, asking him to turn down the volume. Seeing the graphic horror game, she shields her eyes in disgust and tells him to stop playing. Seiko refuses, arguing it's one of the most popular games in the world. Frustrated, Akane tries to snatch the controller, and the tug-of-war ends with her unplugging the console. As the rest of his belongings arrive, Sato realizes every day with Akane is a battle. Needing to recharge, he heads to the shower, only to find Akane asleep in the bathtub. Embarrassed, he leaves but worries she might drown in her sleep. Reluctantly, he re-enters and tries to wake her by shouting, but when she begins to slip, Sato quickly pulls her out. Akane lands on top of him, waking up in a panic as the awkward scene unfolds. Akane assumes the worst of Seiko's intentions when he pulls her out of the tub, accusing him of trying something indecent. Things escalate when she realizes he touched her while helping her, leading to an uncomfortable argument. Later, while dyeing her hair, Akane reflects on the incident, wondering if Seiko came into the bathroom with genuine concern to stop her from drowning. That night, as they prepare for bed, Akane works up the courage to ask Sato about his actions. Before she can finish, Sato turns off the lights, leaving her unanswered and teary-eyed as she silently cries herself to sleep. The next day, Himari notices Akane looking unusually down and decides to check on her. Akane reluctantly opens up, confessing that she wants to repair her relationship with someone but doesn't know how. Himari suggests suing it out, but Akane shoots that idea down. Himari then advises simply talking it out, though Akane doubts her ability to do so, citing her struggles as an introvert. Himari reveals that even extroverts like her face challenges in relationships. She shares a crucial tip: show respect before you demand it. The advice strikes a chord with Akane, giving her a new perspective. Meanwhile, Sato and Shizi are sharing bread outside. Sato complains about how his house has become a disaster zone. Shizi bluntly suggests he should just get a divorce, but Sato insists it's too late since he's committed to taking over the family company. Shizi advises him to try getting along with Akane instead, pointing out that successful relationships often require compromise. Sato reluctantly considers her words. Determined to mend things, Sato returns home to make amends but freezes when he sees Akane's angry face. As he tries to avoid her, Akane stops him and gently asks if they can discuss their issues. She fears their constant arguments will lead to divorce and wants to find a way for them to coexist peacefully. Reluctantly, Sato agrees, suggesting they establish ground rules for living together. Akane points out that she's been handling all the chores, but Sato explains his preference for doing laundry and dishes in bulk for efficiency. When Akane protests about germs, he recalls Shizi's advice and compromises, agreeing to clean up daily. When it's Sato's turn to share a concern, he asks Akane to stop smacking him every time they accidentally brush against each other in bed. Though hesitant, Akane acknowledges the cramped sleeping arrangements and agrees to set boundaries. She also requests that he use headphones when playing horror games to avoid scaring her. Sato complies, adding that expressing verbal gratitude can strengthen their bond. Akane awkwardly agrees to thank him when he does something kind, and nervously asks him to compliment her cooking if he likes it. Later that night, Akane calls Himari, telling her that although she and Sato are far from perfect, they've managed to clear the air. Just as she's about to hang up, Sato enters the room, and she impulsively offers herself for him to touch to his heart's content. Mortified when Sato clarifies he meant physical contact by accident, Akane's embarrassment is overwhelming. The following day, Sato updates Shizi on their slow but steady progress toward a better relationship. That evening, he surprises Akane with her favorite strawberry shortcake, something he remembered from an essay she wrote in their first year. Akane is touched by his thoughtfulness and thanks him with a warm smile, making Sato blush. To return the favor, Akane cooks a lavish dinner. Sato praises her cooking, delighting her. While he does the dishes, Akane offers to help, leaving Sato stunned. It feels unreal to him since she's usually so cold. Watching her smile, he realizes she's surprisingly cute when she lets her guard down. Sato was reading a book when Akane interrupted him, asking if he had to finish it that night. He said no, so she mentioned renting a movie about cats and suggested they watch it together. When she revealed it was a 24-hour movie, he was shocked. She explained it only cost 100 yen and flipped the case, discovering there was a 3-hour highlight version. Sato insisted they watch the shorter version. However, he fell asleep during the movie, leaving Akane to enjoy it alone. After it ended, Sato woke up abruptly, and Akane promised they'd watch his favorite movie next time. He confessed he preferred games over movies and suggested teaching her how to play, confidently claiming she'd get addicted. Skeptical, Akane said she wouldn't, but 30 minutes later, she was hooked and even beat him in a match. That night, as they lay in bed, she thanked him and he promised to buy her favorite games along with his favorite movies. She then asked him to call her by her first name, making him a little awkward. The next morning, Sato noticed that he and Akane weren't bickering like usual. When he asked her if she had started to hate him, Akane denied it. Another friend, Himari, teased them about reconciling, making Akane nervous enough to run off. Later in the library, Shizi noticed the book Sato was reading about communication skills and expressed surprise. When she asked if it was helpful, Sato affirmed it was. In the hallway, Sato tried to talk to Akane, but she yelled at him for addressing her at school. He led her to a secluded spot where he asked about her plans after school. She replied she had nothing other than studying, so he suggested they go shopping. Akane reacted dramatically, asking if it was a date. Embarrassed, Sato dragged her into an empty classroom and clarified it wasn't a date, just a way to carry the shopping bags easily. Both awkwardly laughed, convincing themselves it was nothing special. As Akane was leaving, Himari invited her to walk home together and suggested visiting a bread shop with a discount. Akane declined, mentioning prior plans, and ran off. While rushing down the stairs, she accidentally stepped on Shizi, who was lying down. Apologizing quickly, Akane tried to leave, but Shizi asked what kind of collaboration she wanted with Sato and wouldn't let her go without an answer. Akane dashed off, saying she had important business. Akane and Sato walked to a nearby store where she focused on buying the cheapest items until she spotted discounted chicken breast. Rushing to grab it, she got caught in the crowd and fell. Sato also tried but failed, and the chicken sold out. Akane vowed to try again next time and told Sato to stay by her side for support. On their way back, Sato complimented her diligence, saying she'd make a great wife. Startled, Akane reminded him she was already married, and they continued their awkward walk home. That night, Akane woke up to Sato touching her face. Assuming the worst, she accused him of assault. Sato nervously defended himself, claiming she had been clinging to him, but she denied it. Eventually, he admitted he found her sleeping face cute and wanted to pinch her cheek. Surprised, Akane asked if that was true. When he affirmed it, she allowed him to look at her for a while before going back to sleep. The next morning, they were both so flustered and distracted that Akane had burned the bread while Sato walked around wearing a tie but no shirt. They bought bread at a shop and ate outside. Himari spotted them and started questioning them curiously. Flustered, Akane claimed Sato was following her, picked up a piece of bread from the ground and threw it away, saying it was too big for her. Sato grew annoyed at how Akane was talking and started yelling at her. She fired back and their argument grew louder until Himari stepped in to separate them. Later, Akane sat down to study for a quiz. Sato, noticing her stress, told her not to overwork herself, but Akane brushed him off, telling him to study as well. He smugly replied that he remembered everything taught in class and didn't need to study. Irritated, she snapped at him to leave and shut the door behind him. A while later, Sato knocked on her door, offering her dinner. Excitedly, Akane accepted the strawberry sandwiches. Taking a bite, she loved them so much they gave her a burst of motivation to study harder. She stayed up all night without rest, preparing for the quiz. The next morning, Sato made her breakfast, but the lack of sleep caught up to her, and she collapsed in the school hallway. Himari, noticing, helped her up and asked if she was okay. Akane admitted she hadn't been sleeping well. Himari urged her to take care of herself, warning that she wouldn't beat Sato if she ruined her health. Determined, Akane insisted she'd defeat him no matter what. That evening, Sato found Akane asleep at her study table. Concerned, he placed a hand on her forehead and realized she had a fever. He gently woke her and told her to rest, applying a cold compress to her forehead. Despite her condition, Akane insisted on studying, saying she couldn't afford to give up on her dream. When Sato asked about her dream, she revealed that she wanted to become a doctor to save her loved ones. However, because her family couldn't afford the fees, she had agreed to marry him under the condition that his grandmother would pay for her education. She vented her frustration about how effortlessly Sato got good grades while she struggled endlessly without success. Sato reassured her that talent varies from person to person, but Akane admitted this both frustrated her and made her admire him. Shocked, Sato asked what she meant. Realizing what she had said, Akane grew flustered and nervously yelled at him to forget it. Later that night, her fever hadn't subsided and Sato considered calling an ambulance. Akane resisted, worried that it might deprive someone with a terminal illness of the help they needed. Seeing her stubbornness, Sato decided to take matters into his own hands. Picking her up in his arms, he told her he couldn't just ignore her pain. He ran to the hospital with her, and along the way, she worried he'd mock her dream. Instead, he assured her she could achieve it and believed in her. Reflecting on their marriage, Sato thought about how he once hated her, but now believed their relationship might lead to a happy ending. A week later, Akane woke Sato up in the morning, threatening to use a frying pan if he didn't get up. Alarmed, he shot up in bed, calling her a demon. She retorted, saying she had come to wake him kindly, only for him to think of her that way. She demanded a thank you, which he gave begrudgingly, wondering how she had recovered so quickly. Akane reminded him to wash his face, scolding him for not doing so the day before. Sato joked that the rain had taken care of it. She lectured him for being careless, but he teased her back, saying she shouldn't scold someone she looks up to. To prove his point, he showed her a video he had recorded of her admitting it. Furious, she chased him to get his phone. Later, Himari congratulated Sato on scoring 100 on the quiz, leaning a bit too close for comfort. He stepped back, prompting Himari to laugh at his cluelessness before walking away. Moments later, Akane approached him, clearly annoyed. She leaned in close and whispered that as his wife, she wouldn't allow him to get too close to other girls. Then she walked away, leaving Sato stunned, wondering how Akane had become so cute lately. This then marks the end of today's anime recap. The next morning, Sato hurries to class when Akane calls out to him, asking him to stop. Assuming she's about to argue, he ignores her. However, she just wants to return a lunchbox, thinking he left it behind because he dislikes her cooking. When Sato admits he genuinely forgot it, she insists he eats every bite since she put a lot of effort into making it. During recess, as Sato gets ready to enjoy his meal, Shisei shows up and demands he share the lunch with her. Sato refuses, pointing out she already had a large breakfast. Shisei counters, claiming men will never understand a woman's cravings. A playful argument ensues, and Shisei uses her charm to turn the class against Sato. Left with no choice, he agrees to share, but just then, Himari arrives and notices that his lunchbox matches Akane's. The entire class begins speculating that Akane prepared Sato's lunch, fueling rumors that they're in a relationship. Embarrassed, Sato and Akane deny being a couple, but someone jokes that they've acted like a married pair all along. Amid the chaos, Shisei eats Sato's entire lunch, nonchalantly explaining that she only did it to eliminate the evidence for him. She then questions him about life at home, teasingly suggesting there might be something going on between him and Akane. Later, Himari greets Sato by leaping in front of him. When he warns her to be careful, she confidently replies that she knows he'll catch her. As they walk to class, Himari asks if Akane really made his lunch. Sato explains Akane just copied his. Himari then asks if they're dating, and when he says no, she excitedly runs off. Watching from a distance, Shisei notices Himari's expression change whenever she's near Sato. That night, Sato and Akane are in bed when Akane hears a noise in the house and screams, thinking it's a ghost. Sato wakes up but dismisses her fear, trying to go back to sleep. Frustrated, Akane keeps talking until he finally agrees to check. As Sato investigates, Akane clings to him, begging him not to leave her alone. The next day, Sato is in his study when a scared Akane walks in, saying she heard something moving in the living room. He jokingly suggests she take a photo, but she refuses, terrified she'll get possessed. When he asks why she came to him, she says it's to protect him from ghosts. Later, while Sato is in the bathroom, Akane keeps knocking on the door, pleading to be let in. That night, she announces she's going to take a bath and insists he stay nearby for her safety. Hoping for a romantic moment, Sato agrees and watches her silhouette through the blinds as she talks to reassure herself. The following day, Sato seeks advice from Shisei, who immediately deduces he's dealing with marital troubles. She reassures him that everyone needs someone to lean on and it's okay to ask for help. Sato explains that Akane constantly mentions a ghost in the house and has turned his life into chaos. Shisei, suspecting there might actually be a spirit, decides to investigate. Later, Shisei directly asks Akane if she's married to Sato, declaring she already knows everything and suspects are getting dirty under the sheets. To keep her from spreading rumors, Sato and Akane drag her into an empty classroom. Akane, fuming, assumes Sato blabbed, but he insists he said nothing. Shisei confesses she figured it out herself. Accepting that it's okay if Sato's family finds out, Akane apologizes for not telling Shisei sooner. Shisei then announces that their house is infested with spirits and warns that Akane will be cursed if they don't act. She adds that if the problem continues, Akane's grades will drop by 50 points in every subject. Panicked, Akane pleads for Shisei's help. That evening, Sato and Akane escort Shisei to their home, where she immediately senses the presence of spirits lingering outside. Akane begins to panic, but Shisei reassures her, promising to identify the source and eliminate it. Inside the house, Sato leads Shisei to his study, where she immediately accuses him of hiding explicit books. Akane is horrified to discover that he's been hoarding an entire library, but Sato defends himself, claiming he only reads ordinary novels. While exploring the study, Shisei stumbles upon Sato's underwear and, inappropriately, starts sniffing them, commenting that they smell like detergent. Embarrassed, Sato quickly snatches them away before things take an even weirder turn. Moving on, Shisei suggests inspecting Akane's study, but Akane adamantly refuses, warning that only God knows what horrors might be uncovered there. Instead, she directs Shisei to their bedroom, where Akane first encountered the supposed ghost. After carefully analyzing every possibility, Shisei concludes that the ghost they've been searching for is, in fact, herself. As it turns out, she's been sneaking into the house over the past few days. Based on what she overheard, she deduces that Akane and Sato mistook her presence for a spirit. When questioned about why she didn't clarify sooner, Shisei reveals she had keys from their grandpa but preferred to sneak in to avoid disrupting their speedrun at making babies. As a reward for solving the mystery, Shisei demands dinner, having enjoyed Akane's homemade lunch earlier. Showering Akane with exaggerated praise, she declares her the best chef in existence despite Akane's true talent being her ability to create a mess. Flattered, Akane prepares an elaborate meal. Later, as Sato wipes food from Akane's face, she suddenly realizes how close they've become without noticing. After dinner, Shisei sits on Sato's lap, learning to play a cat-themed game. Sato notices something off with Akane and asks if she's okay. She insists she's fine, warning him that she'll pull his teeth out if he asks again. When Sato decides to take a shower, Shisei casually announces she'll join him, claiming they always bathe together. Suspicious, Akane insists they shower separately, worried that bathing isn't all they're doing. Later that night, Akane sneaks into bed and admits she has a list of frustrations she couldn't share in front of Shisei. Putting his book aside, Sato listens as Akane expresses her annoyance about not knowing he bought the cat game. Sato explains he didn't want to disturb her since she was busy studying, but Akane argues she still needs breaks. She laments not being the first to play the game, but jokingly claims it's all part of her plan to get a head start and beat him. This sparks playful teasing between the two, and Akane says she feels better after venting. Sato then asks if that was the only thing on her mind. Hesitantly, Akane admits she feels a little jealous seeing him as she stays so close. However, she quickly changes the subject, warning Sato to keep his hands away from her jacked, to which Sato responds that he isn't touching her at all. At that moment, Shisei emerges from between them, revealing she's been there all along. Shisei discloses that she and Sato have shared a bed since childhood and clarifies that she feels most at ease around him. Sensing Akane's discomfort, Shisei prepares to leave, but Akane insists she stay, admitting she's not ready for any nighttime surprises. Later, Shisei asks Akane if she gets jealous when Sato gives her attention. Though Akane tries to deny it, her blushing gives her away. Shisei advises her to confess her feelings to Sato, explaining that he'll never know how she truly feels unless she tells him. If you enjoyed the video and want more of it, please support the channel by leaving a like and subscribe. Let's help us reach our current goal of 20,000 subscribers.